A fellow priest shared a hospital visit that he never forgot. A man in his early 60s was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And when the priest walked into the room, the first words out of the patient's mouth were, "Father, I missed my life." The priest responded, "Well, there's always things we missed in life, things we would have done differently, regrets we have." "No, Father," the man replied, "you don't understand. I missed my life. I drifted through it. I never took the time to reflect on its purpose and meaning. I put that off until later. But now there is no more later." Friends, we periodically go on retreat so that we don't miss our lives. The church has liturgical seasons so that we periodically stop and ask ourselves, am I living my real life or missing it? Retreats and liturgical seasons help us to rediscover why I am here, where I am going, and how I get there. Even before COVID, with its medical, spiritual, and economic disruptions, too many Americans, when surveyed, would say they were merely surviving 21st century life with its demands and distractions. Even 18-year-olds. As the gospel warns today, we become weighed down by the anxieties of life, drowsy with distractions, running from those cares to one self-medicating rush to another, rather than confront what the world within and the world without is crying about. Rather than being watchful and vigilant, we can drift through life like the man with cancer, hydroplaning upon the surface of the greatest story ever told, the most profound truth ever heard. All of human history is but a love affair between God and humanity. We're not meant to merely survive our lives or even to live them. God created us to flourish, to live a divine love affair at this exact time in history, not another. Amid these historical circumstances, not others. Among these people that make up home and work and office and school. Created in His image, we are historic people, called to grow day by day into His very likeness, and thus make God and the divine love affair present on this earth now. Christians, that is our story. That's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Let's not put off until later recovering that. Because when we forget our story, we lose sight of why we're here, where we're going, and how to get there. We forget who we are and whose we are. And we miss our life. I know. I almost did. Before I joined the Dominicans, I was racing up the ladder of professional success so fast, I never stopped to see if the ladder was facing the right wall. One day, my best friend David called me and asked if I'd thought any more about entering religious life. I said, I'm open, but I'm just going to see where life takes me. After a long moment of dead silence, my friend said, and your butt will be sitting in an even bigger, more impressive executive's chair 10 years from now, but your true vocation will have passed you by. How sad. Click. Jeremiah today addresses those in despair and desperation over their lack of fidelity to their vocation story. They lost sight of the why, the where, and the how of it all. The prophet gives them hope that God will raise up a just shoot for them, and he did. It's this image we've heard about again and again these last 2 Sundays of the Son of Man coming in the clouds, a foreshadowing of the coming of Christ at Christmas. You and I prepare this Advent to be overwhelmed by a personal Creator who can be trusted to keep his promises. Why God created us is what we need to return to if we're not going to miss our true life. The one the Bible describes, not the one the politicians or the marketers or the endless Black Friday advertising tell us is life. Christmas may actually be saved this year by the supply chain issues. We may rediscover that the most perfect gift is found not in a beautifully wrapped present under the tree, but in each other. To go forward spiritually, we need to go back to the very beginning of the human story to discover why we were even created. Why did God create something out of nothing? In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. And then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that it was good. Our universe is approximately 13.5 billion years old. It's more than 90 billion light years across. We can see almost 3,000 stars from Earth on a clear night. There's about 125 galaxies, each holding 1 billion stars. The sun you and I see every day, around which the Earth circles, it was formed about 5 billion years ago. Now, scientists can tell us something about how this happened, but not why it happened. Science and religion offer 2 different types of knowledge. For example, science can tell us the how of chemical reactions in the process of human love and attraction, but only religion can tell us why we love. An overwhelmed Albert Einstein wrote in his notebook one day, "To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty." My Jesuit director of my recent retreat began our first conference musing out loud, "Your application says you are 60. That's not old, but it's the younger side of the last chapter. You should start looking toward the fullness of life." I asked him if there were any fun Jesuits around. He then gave me homework. Go outside and look deeply at God's creation like the first time, as if for the first time. Really look at the trees and the leaves and the grass and the flowers. Feel the wind on your cheek. Smell nature's scent. Hear the sounds of life. And when I did just that, my perspective and my viewpoint shifted. Up close, some of these leaves were downright ugly, clearly dead. Others were brilliant in their color, while still others hauntingly beautiful in their in-between states of living and dying. I was reminded that everything's in dynamic process of living and dying, a dynamic becoming. Up close, not always a pretty process, but stepping back, it was all of a piece, and in that lie its beauty. All creation is in motion and changing, including us and God. And God says it and we are good. Do we believe it? God's not into perfection. God is into perfecting that which is in process through love. Now each morning as I scurry out the door from the Priory here to church, I catch myself, Andrew Carl Wisdom, my late mother's voice, stop and look around. See, smell, hear, feel God's creative love right under your nose. I think of Isaiah 4:26. Lift up your eyes on high. Who created all this? He leads forth the starry host by number. He calls each one by name. And you and I, we are the pinnacle of God's creation. Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. I love author James Finley's description of the first pristine moment of our creation. Imagine, you and I open our eyes to find God, his hands still smeared with clay, hovering over us, breathing into us his own divine life, smiling to see in us a reflection of himself. That image of an intimate God as close as our next breath, grinning with delight like a silly fool from ear to ear, tells you and me everything we need to know about why he created something out of nothing. As if the sheer magnitude of the created universe were not enough to put us in awe and wonder of the power and generosity of God. The intensely personal way he loves and creates us should. It was out of love that he created us. It was for love that he created us. And the only purpose of our life, its only meaning, is to be the silly fool God is and spend our lives risking, loving, and being loved. That's why we're here. Love. That's where we're going to. Love with a capital L. And love is precisely how we get there. It's that simple. This is our true life. Don't put it off till later. Don't miss it.